There has been many a game throughout the last 4 years of my YouTube career that's been requested for me to review by you all, but some slip through the cracks. The one game that by far surpasses all others over the past few years is 2010's bombastic and unapologetically brutish Split Second. This is a game that I've never properly played, mostly, and honestly, due to my already ridiculous backlog of games, but partly due to a feeling that I've been unable to shake. That fear of meeting your heroes. You see, on paper, this game speaks directly to me. I adore stage select style arcade racers. They're some of the most creative and straight up fun racing games throughout history. And combine that with some of the most pompous destruction, chaos, and mayhem ever seen in a video game, and you get the recipe that's sure to speak directly to me, right? Well, the answer to that question is a little more than just a simple yes or no. And so without further ado, I want to dive into my first timer's review of the utterly ridiculous Split Second. Now with a game like this, first impressions are absolutely everything. And you know, it's really hard to beat around the bush here. My first impressions of Split Second were utterly tremendous. Split Second throws absolutely everything at you, even from the very first introductory race. And I mean that really quite literally. You'll have garbage trucks backing up onto the racetrack, crane arms swinging across the track to take you out. Hell, there's gotta be more explosions in one race here than in the entirety of Need for Speed The Run, which means surprisingly a lot. Your average race in Split Second is structured really quite differently to many other games, in a way that I really can't quite say that I've seen before, and it's really impressive. Your first lap is what I like to think of as a scouting run. You can survey the track, get a glimpse of how you would strategically deploy your power plays. Think of these as switches you can use to activate tools around the track, to take down your opponents, or save for larger changes such as changing the route of the course entirely by alternating the environment. During this survey lap period, something I noticed the game really quite subtly hints at is all sorts of little foreshadowing pieces integrated into the art design. You'll see a sign that says junkyard ahead, or one hinting at rock slides and the such as an example of this, which you typically see as a threat or sign of new terrain coming up. But in Split Second, a total mental reversal into thinking of how you can exploit your environment to your advantage. That's just utterly brilliant track design that. Your second lap is where you can really start pulling punches. Start taking out enemies, letting chaos reign strategically since you've already done a run through of the track itself. The environment and track itself will start to change as well, with all of the old power plays and debris from them piling up around the circuit, a constant reminder of the evolving race unfolding. And in the ultimate conclusion to the second lap, you'll very often have an ultimate power play to make a new route, which could be something as crazy as knocking down a whole bloody comms tower, knocking down cargo ships, or something more simple such as swapping paths through a previously locked tunnel. The final lap is all-out survival. You've gotta, of course, make it to the end with the stakes now at an all-time high. Your opponents get even more ruthless and cutthroat. The power play is still coming at you left and right, quite literally, and an all-out sprint across the finish line. This gameplay loop is the core meat and bones of what makes Split Second click. This right here is damn near perfection. It's so utterly unique and almost aggressively fun, to the point where I can only really play a little of this game in one sitting because of the sheer overload of the senses. Boy, if that ain't evidence of chaos done right. I do say damn near perfection because it isn't all sunshine and rainbows. Something that is very apparent even from the very opening races is that in order to keep the veil of structured chaos at all times, Split Second implements some of the very most aggressive rubber banding that I've seen in a racing game ever. It does not matter how hard you drive, especially if you've done very well in the opening 2 laps. The third is where all sense falls apart and the AI hunts you down with a bloodthirsty vengeance that they just did not have before. And while most of the time you can combat it through strategic play and outdriving them as much as possible, I have had instances where they just rocket past at double your speed and just steadily cruise that way to the finish line, really putting a dampener on the race as a whole because of that. Now, races aren't the only thing that you'll be doing in Split Second. There's a few other event styles that I think are worth discussing. First of which is elimination. Elimination is always so funny to me in this game because of the fact that, well, you do so much eliminating of your opposition in the main standard races. Elimination here is totally fine. But there's something that comes into play a teeny bit more while you're in these events that is a real highlight of this game's best gimmicks. Something that I've yet to mention in regards to those power plays that I've mentioned before is that yes, while they are a great tool for you to use to help narrow down your enemy racers, those same tools can be used to take them out can equally be used against you too. This is what really shines in those eliminators. It's not all just handed to you. You really gotta put some effort in. Next up is survival. This one's really quite an oddball, as the idea on paper is really cool. You'll get stuck behind a sequence of semi-trucks, all shooting explosive barrels at the road in front of you, and you'll have to dodge them and other drivers to make it past each individual truck, which will in turn slide you a healthy chunk of points. Really great on paper, and there are moments where if you do have the chance to get a good run in where it clicks, but more often than not, you'll end up getting a barrel chucked at you mid-corner while you're blinded by something else on track, and it ends up being totally unavoidable. So to keep things short, great idea, but really rough implementation. The next is what I easily name my favorite in the entire game, Detonator. Think of this one as a time trial on the same tracks that you've done your races on, but you've only got one lap, and while you're on said lap, the game does absolutely everything in its power to take you out, activating every single power play, trap, and change an environment that it can in order to stop you. This is utter pandemonium, and I love it. You actually do have to be pretty good too, as you don't have time to be making mistakes as you're on the clock, adding a new sense of difficulty that's only dependent on yourself, away from the artificial rubber banding. My only complaint with the detonators is that, well, you really don't get that many throughout the game. I really wish there could have been more because I just adore these. The next and final one is actually a two that I'm going to combine into one, which is Airstrike and Air Revenge. The game will pit you against a helicopter raining missiles down on you, and in Strike and Revenge you'll have to either dodge or use power plays to parry them back towards the helicopter respectively. Strike, I tend to have more fun with as it leads more towards what I enjoy about Split Second, dodging and using the track as your tool. But Revenge, I really feel like this game is more suited to quick takedowns, such as with enemy racers. Having a large target to work towards in a mini boss fight just feels like it takes too long and isn't as engaging as the rest of the game. It's not bad per se, I just don't think that it smoothly fits into the rest of this game's style and fun. With the real meat of this game said and done, I want to move towards the rest of the campaign, aesthetic, and mission of Split Second to dive even more into the things that I like and not so much. Now before I get too deep into things, I want to do some quick housekeeping. I hate plugging myself, but I know that there's plenty of you who would love to help support these videos and keep them coming. So I wanted to remind y'all that I do indeed have a Patreon, which I'll leave a link to in the description if you want to get early access to previews of videos and updates directly from me. That's enough YouTuber BS from me. I want to genuinely extend a huge thank you to existing patrons, so let's get right back to the video. I want to start off this segment here by mentioning easily the best part of Split Second's aesthetic, and that's the fictional TV show premise that this game is based around. Shock of all shocks, said TV show is called Split Second, a mega exuberant budget action show that's crafted a whole city simply for the purpose of rigging it with explosive and traps, in order to create the action-packed drama that the game will unfold as. Just this alone, having an in-universe explanation for the game, that proper ludonarrative harmony between gameplay and story, instead of just being in some random city that blows up for, I don't know, just cuz, is so neat, and certainly a premise that I've never seen before in a racing game. There's some really neat aspects of the game that really lean into this, my favorite being the instant replays, that'll let you rewind and witness how you've just, well, murdered your competition. That and smaller touches like the television watermarks in the corner of your screen. It's so cool. The campaign itself plays through multiple seasons of the show, with each one mostly targeting a specific area or style of play, slowly introducing you to newer event types and locales as you go. Though if I'm honest, this is where some of my criticisms of the game start rearing their head, and they all revolve around how this career is laid out. I want to start with the fact that, well, by about the midpoint of the game, you've learned absolutely everything that there is. Every style of event, basically every, if not literally every track in the game. And so the last half of the game really starts to drag on, and that's a shame because this is a game that really rests on its laurels and that core gameplay loop, which is really so good. But when there's nothing else to mix that up, you really start to feel as if you truly are just doing the exact same thing over and over, on tracks that you already know all of the little tricks and quirks for, and events that you've done already. It starts to cut away at the real shining diamond that the best parts of this game really are. It also doesn't really help that all the different seasons can start to blend right into each other and honestly really aren't all that distinct. If you're asking me, a better way to have laid these out is for maybe the first half of the game, have the seasons exclusively target one area, maybe two at most, and then have you go through different events throughout to complement the theme of that said season. Then, once you get past that and have discovered every locale and event type, then you start to mix and match, visiting a bunch that you likely haven't visited since the very start of the game, without alienating the ones that you had just started to learn. This critique itself is very likely just a me thing, but it really started to drain some of my enjoyment in the latter stages of the game, though nowhere near enough to take away from the rest of the game that I really love. Going back to the fictionality of Split Second, there's another big piece of the puzzle here that's truly allowed for a game like this to be developed in the first place: completely fictional vehicles. Most people know by now, but if you yourself aren't, any game that involves vehicles that face a hefty amount of damage are almost always going to be made up makes and models. Because manufacturers of real vehicles picture seeing their pride and joys being blown into smithereens as a commercial risk and bad for their image. And hence the fact that games such as Split Second's list are entirely fantasy. The surprisingly large for the style of game list of 25 vehicles are a blast here. And you know, plenty of times when you get these fictional cars, sometimes the designs end up feeling far too generic. Something that I think for the most part doesn't really apply here. There are in-universe brands that help carry similar design language and characteristics between the different models. And you know, it really isn't just a visual thing either. I was really impressed to see the stats for each one meant something, with some cars that I'd picked just because they were stunningly gorgeous, only to find out there was adept in corners as a blind rhinoceros. And speaking of really heavy things, my only real point of contention with these vehicles is the trucks. You'd think that because, well, yes, they're heavier and stronger, so they must last longer when faced against power plays. Yeah, not exactly, since power plays typically end up being one-hit knockouts anyways, so unless you're going full NASCAR and just shoving yourself right into the sides of other racers, you just end up with a worse driving, slower, and larger target for 99% of scenarios. Another thing that I love in the realm of cars, man, I adore how the UI and everything important to the driving experience is right on in your immediate view. Tying the UI to be dynamic and follow the underneath of your car is a really great trick that mobile games really pioneered, since the side of your screen are typically occupied by, well, your hands. But Split Second really puts that on its head because, well, the game is just so intense that you will need to have that important information right in your vision, because taking your eyes off the track will basically guarantee death. The final glue that really holds everything on together in the realm of atmosphere is the audio design. And I need to be honest here, is it a one-trick pony in terms of music, effects work, and theming this game? Yes, absolutely. It does one thing exceptionally well, and it's being dramatic and emphasizing this very cinematic, theatrical chaos. But there's very little nuance to it. It's like a jackhammer. It's loud, it's brash, and it's not very well suited to a variety of things. But what it does well, you can't really beat it. Where I find that this really rears its head is through the score, which, don't get me wrong, it is badass. Wildly upbeat, designed to get your heart pumping and the adrenaline flowing, and it's good. But I can't help but feel quite a lot of the songs can really blend into each other. But hey, that's the reality of picking one vibe and full on sending it. It should be pretty clear by now that Split Second, while not faultless, has thoroughly impressed me. There truly is nothing that captures the same feeling that I got while fighting for my life playing for this game. And even more than that, has left me yearning for just how good a sequel for this game could be. But it's a damn shame that it'll never happen. You see, a sequel was actually in development. Hell, there's even footage of the opening, taking place right after the ending of this original as you escaped the exploding city that was created. Concept art is also out there, some of the new tracks, some of potential menus and sub-menus. Hell, there's even a storyboard. This seems like a dream, right? I mean, the original game got so many things right. A sequel to iron out its quirks and evolve this formula even more. Sounds like the recipe for utter perfection. So, why not? Well, as with many things, a change in management at Disney, which didn't deem the original game enough of a success to keep the employees at BlackRock Studios, pulled the plug. Split Second, where it received utterly glowing reviews. This game has always been a communal favorite since day one, but there's just one problem. It's sold utterly terribly. As is the case with many an interesting racing game, people beg for creativity in this genre, and when something comes along that fill exactly that, they never buy them. It's an unfortunate case of an extremely loud minority. There's a proportionately small group of people who love games like this, and a vastly larger group who just wouldn't even bat an eye based off of the premise and theme alone. In a strange way, it almost reminds me of the Hot Wheels Unleashed games in the modern day, They are some of the more creative arcade racers of the current era, and yet people don't really play them because of that Hot Wheels game stigma. I, for one, just lament the loss of games just like this. They're a dying breed, and the loss of Black Rock Studios was a tragedy. The only real hope that we have for games like this is to make as much noise as possible that games just like Split Second are exactly what we want to see more of. And by going out of your way to support these underdogs, even if you might not initially feel drawn to them, as hindsight is a hell of a thing, and we'll always miss games like Split Second after they're gone, even though you had the chance to support them when they were out.